Walk to your bathroom right now and pick up the oil you use on your face, the one with the words firming, lifting, or tightening printed on the label, the one that cost more than your cleanser. Look carefully at the ingredient list. I want to tell you something most dermatologists rarely say out loud in a consultation. Almost none of those oils are doing what the bottle promises. Sagging skin is not a surface problem, it is structural collapse. And out of the entire beauty aisle, only a very short list of oils has real peer-reviewed evidence behind them. You may already feel a small betrayal in your hand. That is the right reaction because the oil sitting on your counter is probably the most expensive water retention trick you have ever paid for. When you smooth it across your cheeks in the morning, your skin does feel plumper. It does look tighter. For a few hours, the fine lines around your eyes seem softer, and the loose fold along your jawline appears to lift just slightly. That feeling is real, but the interpretation of that feeling is wrong. What you are experiencing is occlusion. A thin oil film sitting on top of your skin traps water inside the outer layer, and hydrated skin cells swell just enough to smooth the surface. It is the same reason your fingertips look plumper after a long bath. It has nothing to do with lifting. It has nothing to do with tightening. And it certainly has nothing to do with the collagen and elastin sitting beneath the surface, which is where sagging actually begins. Here is what most people were never told. Skin laxity is not caused by dryness, dullness, or poor massage technique. It is caused by the slow loss of the two proteins that form your skin's internal architecture. Collagen gives your skin its firmness. Elastin gives it the ability to snap back after you smile or squint. Starting sometime in your 20s, your body produces roughly 1% less collagen every year. Elastin is even less forgiving. Once damaged, it does not regenerate meaningfully. On top of that, the fat pads that make a young face look full begin to descend. The bones of your face slowly resorb. The ligaments that hold everything in place stretch under the weight of gravity day after day, year after year. Think of your skin like a mattress. The fabric on top is the surface you can see. Underneath, there's a dense network of springs and support. When those springs weaken, the mattress starts to sag in the middle. You can polish the fabric all you want. You can rub it with the finest oil in the world. The springs are still collapsing. That is what is happening under your skin. And that is why the idea of a bottle of oil lifting a sagging jawline is, for most oils, a very expensive fantasy. Now, I would not be here talking to you if the story ended there, because there is a small group of oils, 3 of them, that do carry real clinical evidence behind their claims, not for reversing sag. Nothing reverses structural collapse, but for slowing the progression, improving skin elasticity, and in some cases stimulating the very biology that keeps your skin firm in the first place. And when you understand why these 3 work, you will understand why almost every other oil on the market does not. The most important thing I need you to know before we go any further is this: the oils that actually work do not work because they are oils. They work because they carry molecules inside them that behave almost identically to prescription-strength dermatological treatments. In one specific case, an oil you can buy at a drugstore for under $15 contains a naturally occurring form of the same compound your dermatologist charges you $300 a visit to prescribe, and it has been sitting in the beauty aisle for decades. The gap between what people believe about facial oils and what the science actually shows is enormous. Walk down the skincare aisle and you will see dozens of blends promising to tighten, firm, sculpt, and restore. Most contain some combination of coconut oil, sweet almond oil, argan oil, and a long list of botanical extracts printed in tiny gold letters. Some are excellent for barrier repair. A few can help with hydration and softness. But the language of lifting is a marketing story built on the temporary tightness you feel in the first 10 minutes after application. It sells because it feels true. It feels true because your skin genuinely responds to it in the short term. And the industry has been very careful never to correct you. I want you to touch the skin along your jawline right now. Feel how the tissue moves when you press it gently upward with 2 fingers. That resistance, or lack of resistance, is the story of your collagen. It is the story of your elastin. It is the story of every summer you spent without sunscreen, every night you skipped moisturizer, every year that quietly passed while you assumed the expensive oil in your medicine cabinet was doing structural work. It was not. But one of the oils I am about to describe has been shown in a peer-reviewed clinical trial to perform, in the words of the researchers, comparably to a prescription retinoid. That is not a small claim. That is one of the strongest claims in dermatological cosmetic science in the last decade. And it changes everything about how you should be thinking about the oils on your shelf. Because if a plant oil can activate the same receptors in your skin that a prescription retinoid activates, then the question is no longer whether oils can help sagging skin. The question is which oils, at what concentrations, in which formulations, and against what other habits that are undoing the benefit before it can take hold. That is where the real conversation begins. The oil I want you to meet first is called bakuchiol. You may have seen it on a label without realizing what it was. It comes from the seeds and leaves of a plant called Sorrelia coralifolia, used in traditional medicine for centuries. What changed everything was a study published in the British Journal of Dermatology in 2019. The design was elegant. 44 patients were split into two groups. One used a cream containing 0.5% bakuchiol twice a day. The other used a cream containing 0.5% retinol once a day, 12 weeks. Photographs. Wrinkle depth measured with actual instruments. The results surprised even the researchers. Bakuchiol performed comparably to retinol in reducing wrinkle surface area and hyperpigmentation, not somewhat close. Comparably. And the bakuchiol group had significantly less irritation and less of the stinging redness that pushes so many people to abandon their retinoid within the first month. Now here is why that matters for your sagging skin. Retinoids are, along with sunscreen, one of the only two topical categories in dermatology with strong evidence for stimulating actual collagen production. They bind to specific receptors inside your skin cells called retinoic acid receptors. When those receptors are activated, they send a signal into the cell nucleus to increase collagen synthesis and slow the enzymes that break collagen down. Over months and years, that shifts the balance in your favor. The dermis, the deeper layer where sagging is engineered, gets structurally reinforced. What Dhaliwal's team found is that bakuchiol appears to activate the same receptor pathway, despite having a completely different molecular shape. That is unusual. That is why dermatologists paid attention. And that is why, if you are going to reach for one oil-based ingredient with real evidence for slowing the visible signs of laxity, bakuchiol has the strongest case in the last 10 years. Remember what I told you a few minutes ago. The oils that actually work do not work because they are oils. Read that again. Bakuchiol is not doing anything special because it is suspended in a carrier oil. It is doing something because the molecule itself, at the right concentration, tells your skin cells to behave more like younger skin cells. The oil is the delivery system. The molecule is the medicine. Which brings me to the second one on the list, and this is where the story becomes almost uncomfortable for the beauty industry. Rosehip seed oil, you have seen it. It is cheap. It sits on the bottom shelf next to castor oil and grapeseed oil. And it happens to contain a small but measurable amount of naturally occurring trans-retinoic acid, which is the biologically active form of vitamin A that prescription tretinoin converts into once it hits your skin. Not a distant cousin, the same molecule. That is the shocking part. There is a plant oil sold for $12 or $15 in a dark bottle that contains a naturally occurring form of the exact compound your dermatologist prescribes for anti-aging. It also contains a very high concentration of linoleic acid, which strengthens the skin barrier. Studies on rosehip have been smaller and less rigorous than the bakuchiol data, but the mechanism is not in dispute. Cold-pressed, dark-bottled, refrigerated rosehip seed oil is a legitimate low-strength retinoid delivery system. And this is where you have to reinterpret something I said earlier. Remember when I described the expensive lifting oil on your counter as a very expensive water retention trick? That was true for most oils on the shelf, but it was not true for these two. If your rosehip oil is fresh, cold-pressed, and stored properly, it is doing real biochemical work under your skin. If it is oxidized, sitting in a clear glass bottle on your windowsill, or was cheap and heat-processed, the active retinoids are already destroyed. The bottle looks the same. The molecule does not survive. The third oil in this short list is argan oil, and its evidence sits in a different corner of the science. In 2015, researchers published a study in the journal Menopause examining postmenopausal women in Morocco who consumed and topically applied argan oil daily. What they found was a measurable improvement in skin elasticity over the study period, particularly in women whose skin had lost firmness after estrogen decline. Argan is rich in vitamin E, squalene, and unique polyphenols that appear to support the extracellular matrix, the scaffolding that holds collagen and elastin fibers in place. The evidence is narrower than bakuchiol and rosehip, but for a specific population, particularly women navigating perimenopause and beyond, argan is one of the few oils with real elasticity data behind its name. Now feel the strange weight of what I am about to say. A cold-pressed rosehip oil for $12 can outperform an $80 luxury blend that contains none of these three ingredients in meaningful concentrations. The luxury bottle has better packaging, it has softer marketing, it smells wonderful. But if you turn the box over and the first three ingredients are fractionated coconut oil, sweet almond oil, and jojoba, all you are paying for is a very elegant delivery of temporary tightness. The lifting language is doing all the work, and this leads to the harder truth of the entire conversation. Even the three oils we just described do not reverse sagging skin. Nothing you can rub on your face reverses structural collapse. What these three oils do is slow the progression. They shift the balance of collagen production versus collagen loss slightly in your favor. Over months and years, that shift becomes visible. Fine lines soften. Skin holds a little better along the jawline, but the springs of the mattress are still weakening, and no ingredient in the beauty aisle has ever been shown to rebuild them. Which forces the real question. If the oil you have been using is not one of these three, then everything you have been doing for the last several years to fight sagging skin has almost certainly been a very expensive placebo. So let me tell you exactly what to do about that. Because if you are still with me, you deserve more than a warning. You deserve a routine. Start with rosehip seed oil because it is the most accessible of the three. When you buy it, three details determine whether you are getting medicine or salad dressing. First, the bottle must be dark amber or cobalt blue glass. Clear bottles guarantee oxidation. Second, the label must say cold-pressed and unrefined. Heat destroys the retinoic acid before it ever touches your face. Third, once opened, the bottle belongs in your refrigerator. A fresh cold-pressed rosehip oil has a natural shelf life of about 6 months at room temperature and closer to 12 months refrigerated. Beyond that, the active compounds are gone. Use it at night. Retinoids of any kind are photosensitive, which means sunlight breaks them down and can increase your skin's sensitivity to UV damage the following day. Apply it after your cleanser on slightly damp skin. 2 or 3 drops for the entire face. Massage it in gently along the direction of tissue tension from the center of your face outward and upward. Not because massage lifts sagging skin, it does not, but because gentle movement helps the oil spread evenly and reach every fold where the molecule needs to bind. Now bakuchiol. This one is trickier because the market has flooded with products labeled bakuchiol that contain almost none of it. The clinical evidence sits at a concentration of 0.5 to 1%. If your product does not disclose the concentration on the label, assume it is far below that threshold. Look for bakuchiol in the first half of the ingredient list, not buried near the end with the preservatives. Bakuchiol also plays well with morning routines, unlike rosehip because it is much more photostable. Some people use bakuchiol in the morning and rosehip at night. That combination has real biological logic. Argan oil is the simplest to use because it is remarkably stable. A high-quality culinary-grade cold-pressed argan oil is essentially the same product sold in cosmetic packaging at 4 times the price. If you are perimenopausal, postmenopausal, or have noticed a rapid loss of firmness after hormonal shifts, this is the oil worth adding to your evening routine. 2 to 3 drops layered over rosehip or on nights when you are not using rosehip. What it will do is support the extracellular matrix and the barrier function of skin that is thinned with age. Now, let me tell you what to stop using tonight. Coconut oil on your face. It is comedogenic for most skin types, which means it clogs pores and produces the exact kind of low-grade inflammation that accelerates the breakdown of collagen. Any oil blend whose primary ingredients are fractionated coconut oil, mineral oil, sweet almond oil, or generic vegetable oil, dressed up as a firming or lifting serum. The tightness you feel after applying them is water retention. The lift is optical, and every dollar you spend on them is a dollar not spent on something that actually engages the biology of your skin. I also need to say something that will disappoint some of you. Even if you build the perfect oil routine, using bakuchiol in the morning and rosehip and argan at night, you will still lose the battle against sagging skin if you skip one thing. Sunscreen. This is not a marketing line. Every large dermatological society, from the American Academy of Dermatology to European and Asian consensus groups, agrees on this. Ultraviolet radiation is the single greatest external accelerator of collagen breakdown and elastin damage. A well-formulated broad-spectrum sunscreen applied daily does more to protect the firmness of your face than any oil in this list combined. Not because it lifts anything, because it stops the damage from continuing to accumulate underneath. Think back to the mattress. If bakuchiol and rosehip are slowly reinforcing the springs beneath the fabric, sunscreen is what keeps the roof from leaking onto them every day. You can spend a fortune reinforcing a mattress that sits in the rain. You will still watch it collapse. And here we come to the honest answer to the title. The only oils proven to help sagging skin in the actual peer-reviewed sense of the word proven are 3. Bakuchiol, backed by comparative trial data against retinol; rosehip seed oil, backed by mechanism and smaller supporting studies; argan oil, backed by elasticity data, particularly in postmenopausal women. Every other oil marketed as lifting is either riding on the reputation of these 3, coasting on the temporary optical effect of occlusion, or telling you a story that no clinical trial has ever confirmed. That is the truth. It is more measured than the label on the bottle in your bathroom. It is also more useful because now you know exactly what to look for, exactly what to stop paying for, and exactly what to expect. These oils will not give you back the face you had at 25. They will slow the pace of change. They will make the version of your skin you have at 50 look more like the version you would have had at 55 without them. Over years, that difference is visible. Over decades, it is significant. I want you to pick up that bottle again, the one you were holding at the beginning. Read the ingredient list one more time. Is any of the first 5 ingredients bakuchiol, rosehip seed oil, or unrefined argan oil at a concentration you can trust? If not, you now know what the label was really selling you. And if it was, then you were already doing something quietly right without knowing why. There is only one question left. When you look at your face tomorrow morning, will you finally be able to tell the difference between skincare that flatters you for an hour and skincare that measurably changes what your skin will look like 10 years from now?